good morning and welcome. Yes, we're back for another Chatbox Business Breakfast Show. I'm David Bell and joined here yet again, year on, with Mr. Nick Looby. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, my friend. Good morning, good morning. Every morning I seem to be sitting here Thursday morning, bright and breezy, look out the window and the sun is shining. And last week I said, oh, look, it's sunny here in Essex. And my mum texted me, said it's snowing here in Royston. And then before the end of the show, it started snowing in your neck of the woods as well, mate. It's a bit crazy out there, but delighted to report sunny again. What a week. What a roller coaster of a week we have had. So much to talk about, so much to share. Lovely audience. As always, it's all about you, right? Lots of conversations to be had. We need your help. We need your advice. We need you to share your magic with the world. A much better place if we all are happy to share. Very excited, mate. Very excited about the conversations that we're going to have today.
Yeah, it's an exciting show. They all are. Well, at least we think they are all exciting. We have great guests, great conversations, great feedback, great comments, lots of interaction. And this week will hopefully be no different as well. So this week is all about business growth and developments. We've started to theme our shows up a little bit more in advance now. We've kind of set the themes for the next, about 7 or 8 weeks in advance. Some really great stuff coming. As I say, today is all about business growth and development, but we're talking about personal growth, tech and the internet, how that can help your business. We're talking about presenting and speaking, something Nick and I are, kind of in love with, really. We love to.
Used to be really good at.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get out some good tips on that show. We've got lots of great stuff coming up over the next several weeks as well. Lots of great guests coming on to join us today. We have a couple of guests joining us in the studio. We'll be sharing some of their business growth and tips, and also something that probably won't work for everybody tuning in around the world because it's kind of more adapted to the UK market. But if you're here in the UK, you do want to listen to what's coming up. How can you grow your business, and what help is out there to help you accelerate and move your business forwards? But it's been strange, Nick, the last kind of 2 years. I know we kind of probably mention it on every single show, but it's kind of still the talk of the town. The pandemic, COVID, the impact that's had on businesses over the past few years. We're now into a kind of, that's coming to slightly an end. I think people are forgetting the story that sits there. I was out yesterday. I went up to London with a family, day off. We went up to watch a West End musical, and it was a fantastic day. But it was like normality. I did see some people wearing masks and on the tube and stuff like that. But other than that, you wouldn't have known. You'd pretty much think it was business as normal, which I suppose it probably is. The theatre was heaving. It was packed wall to wall. And I reckon if there was 3% of people wearing a mask, I'd be shocked. Now, I know it's not compulsory, but I suppose there's good news. Normality is restoring. But let's just hope, obviously, we don't get the bad news that there's there is a big wave going through, because I know more people have got COVID than ever. So we are in this kind of transitional period. Yeah. Come on, Nick, just before we carry on, you've been isolating.
I have. This time last week, I'd just come back from a team meeting in Birmingham. Really lovely to get out and about. I was one of the few people wearing my mask on the journey up there, on the journey back. I came back and tested on Friday, positive for COVID. We talked about it in the cost of doing business when you picked it up on your trip to Barcelona. It's absolutely rife, as you say. I know more people with it now than ever before. It's as though we kind of think, well, okay, we've had enough now. We'll just get on with it. Government seems to be pushing us in that direction, and one of the side effects is, we're going to catch it. Yeah, 2 years. I'm really frustrated. 2 years been really careful, and then suddenly it's here I am isolating. Supposed to be in Swansea all week, sitting back in Essex, isolating, frustrated, and because it's getting in the way of my business development and growth. Okay, nasty cold. Don't wish it on anyone. Horrible. Coming out at the end of it, still testing positive yesterday. Really frustrated. Okay, and if the health implications aren't as bad as they were, great. Still massively frustrating. Certainly, if you're trying to run a business, thinking, I don't need anything to hold me back. And then suddenly I feel rubbish and I can't go out and I can't do the normal things that I want to do. Even if the government says, yes, you can go out, Nick, don't want to pass it on to anyone who's vulnerable. So doing the decent thing. But yeah, it's and you go to the theatre and it's full of people and you think, this is what I'm looking forward to, getting back to normal. There's costs associated with it. Is everybody going to go rushing back? Okay. And from a business development point of view, what does that mean? Okay. We talked last week about business evoluting, right? The changes that have happened across your markets, my markets, every blooming market. What does that mean for our business development strategy? Okay. And this is the conversation for today's show. Right? Has your business development strategy changed? What is it? What are you doing? Share some of that secret sauce with our lovely audience, okay? Because we live in a world of plenty, right? It's not, you don't have to hide it and say, well, I'm not telling anyone my secrets, because that's not the way the world works, not the way business works, all right? You've got to share. You've got to share. If you could proper grow your business, you've got to share. So long story short, mate, yeah, got COVID, blooming frustrated.
And stuck at home, but you get catching up. You're using the tools that are available to you. That most of us have learned over the last few years. When we were forced to be locked down, we evoluted, we adopted, we changed our business to utilize some of the digital tools, the tech tools, or the ways of communicating that we've never been used to or used in the past. And probably, that's been a great help to you over the last week or so, because you're stuck in, you're not going out. In my personal opinion, you're doing the right thing. You're see, it's still there. You're still, passing the germs on. You're doing the right thing by staying kind of homebound and, protecting people around you. But then you can still continue because, you're kind of back to probably feeling pretty good-ish now compared to where you were. So you can do business, but you just don't want to go out and share the germs. So you're using the tools that most of us are familiar to. We were talking about just pre the show launch, Zoom. You just renewed your Zoom account. So I wonder how many others out there have renewed their online accounts to the likes of Zoom or whatever platform it is that you might subscribe to. Because even though you can go out, you can have those face-to-face meetings. You can go to breakfast meetings, lunchtime meetings, evening gatherings, whatever it might mean for you. But how many of you are still using those digital tools? And I think that, that's where, dare I say, a positive from the pandemic has been that we've evoluted. We've had to adapt and change, and we're going to continue using those methods of working.
I have an issue. I have an issue with that. Okay, totally get it. Right. Thank goodness for the technology, got us out of a really dodgy situation. We were able to continue doing our business. We evoluted. We moved online. Most of our communication is now online based. What that meant is we're in front of our machines, okay, a lot more than we used to be. Okay, so we rely on them more, right? It's just imagine, okay, trying to live without your mobile phone now, right? Ridiculously difficult. Okay, now try imagining running your business not sat in front of your screen. Okay, what happens if you sit in front of your screen is you rely more on your email and you drown more in your email because everyone's doing it. And everybody is sending more. It's going to be more difficult, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, lovely audience, it's going to be more difficult for you to escape from your office, your desk, your PC, your laptop, than it used to be 2.5 years ago. Because so much has moved there. Just like all of the apps carried on your phone, mate. Right. Yep. It's very, very difficult to move away from that now. There's no going back.
I 100% agree with you, but I think there's good positives to be taken. We can't forget the good old days either. We've got to have the blends, the hybrids. That is what we need to work on. You talk about email. Let's just touch on that. Now, business development, lots of us will be receiving emails on I was going to say a daily basis, but by minute, we'll be flooded with communication tactics from people selling us stuff to genuinely, working with our customers and clients. Do you know what I found works really well, and others will probably have adopted this as well? I found voice messaging to be absolutely brilliant. You know that, Nick, we communicate a hell of a lot over the week when we're talking about, things we're going to talk about on the show or stories and stuff like that. But I use, a lot of WhatsApp. I use a lot of Signal, which is the WhatsApp equivalent when everyone's sort of dumped off of WhatsApp for the short term. And I use iMessage, being an Apple user as well. And I often I do send text messages, but I have to think and I have to type and stuff like that. But I can literally, I'll be out walking the dog and I will send a voice message, or someone will send me a message typed out. And it's like, okay, I can respond to this quite quickly and I send a voice message. The other thing I use a lot of is video messaging as well. So I do a lot of that. And I don't mean going into a live conversation. I mean, I will record something using screen sharing, kind of a walkthrough, talk through scenario. Someone asks me, David, how can I do, or what's the best way to do X, Y, and Z? Rather than me typing out a long, lengthy email, bullet point 1, bullet point 2, I will record a show and tell. That's what I like to call it. It's like going back to school, a show and tell. This is how you do it, step by step. Follow me, and you can see what I'm doing. And I like that method of communication because it's visual and it's audible. And in some cases, it saves me time because I don't have to sit there and type it. I can do it whilst I'm potentially doing something else. I know multitasking, some will say, is not great, but when you're walking the dog, I'm still thinking out loud and I can make that happen. So I love voice messaging. And did I use it a lot beforehand? Well, no, not really. It's become something I've adopted to over the last 12 months, 18 months. Why? Because our inboxes are flooded with emails. Why? Because we always get lots of text messages. So, yeah, it's just one thing I found works really well. And what I've also found is that clients will then communicate back that way as well. So if you work with a voice messaging system, I then get that in return. And it becomes a bit more lifelike because I can hear the context of what they're saying rather than trying to guess what it means in a message.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan, right? I know when you're walking the dog, right? Because I'll get a voice message from you, and you're always a little bit out of breath. And I thought, right, he's walking the dog, and he's communicating, right? And a great bit of multitasking if that works for you. And I think it's one of the options, right, to get out of your inbox, because for some considerable time, inboxes have been massively inefficient. Right? How long do you spend in your email deleting rubbish compared with actually communicating effectively? Okay, and the key there is effectively. Right, it's pretty good, right, for sending documents and attachments and answering a quick point maybe, but it's used for everything. It's that one tool that it just, I guess it's outdated. And I've spoken at universities back in the day, and the generation below us don't really use email. Okay, they weren't born into that email environment. Lucky them. Okay, because we were born into it. We'll see the birth of it. Hopefully, we'll see the death of email because I blooming hate it. But the younger generation were born into the messaging world. Even worse, right? More of it, multi-platform, an absolute minefield. But I'll be interested to know, is it an effective business development tool? Do you win business by sitting on your backside and sending hundreds of emails? Because it's never really worked for me. It's quite useful for keeping that train of thought going or having a log of who said what when, but not as a business development tool. A lot of people will point to LinkedIn as a business development tool. Maybe. I don't find that the case. I tell you what, if we've got to boil business development down into one thing, for me and my business, it's a conversation. Yeah. The trick is, how do I facilitate that healthy conversation?
How do we get to that point? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the thing that's evoluted over the last 2 years, how to facilitate a really healthy conversation.
Yeah. Donna agrees, by the way. It's more personable. Really like receiving a voice message. It works well. I'm sure it must be better for our mental health and puts a smile on your face too. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Donna. And good morning. And thank you for joining the show this morning. I totally agree. I love getting, a voicemail. For me, it's much more engaging. I can listen. I can tell if the person's happy, sad, and it creates more of a conversational point. I can go back with a message and, you get some conversation. And at some point, it's like, should we just talk on the phone? I've had a few conversations over the last several weeks where it's back to the old telephone. You've actually picked up and had a conversation, can't see each other, and we've actually communicated via voice only by dialing a number, which is kind of quite archaic and feels quite old-fashioned when you do that now. When you suggest something, should we call each other? Not should we Zoom or Teams or something like that. Should we call each other? So yeah, quite an interesting one. What do you do? How do you communicate? Let's hear from you guys. What are your top tips for communication and engaging with your customers, your suppliers, your stakeholders, maybe your investors, whoever that is to you? We'd love to know what ways you reach out and keep the conversation moving. But let's kind of pick up on a few pointers, because one of the things we want to talk about here this morning is business development. We want to talk about business growth. Some cases, some business have grown over the last couple of years during the lockdown, during the pandemic, but probably more have reduced in size or plateaued to a degree. What's the plans now? The end of the pandemic is kind of upon us. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We have other challenges that will lay before us, of course, energy crisis and other things will come into play. But what's the plan for your business? What's the plan for your idea? Maybe you haven't started your business yet. Now is the time. Is it going to get your business off the ground? What's the things that we should consider? Now, what we've done is we've picked out 20 top business growth points, and we're not going to get through all 20 on the show this morning, but Nick and I are going to pick on a couple, and I think we're going to challenge each other on some of these as well, ask the questions. So I want to kick off really with business planning, because quite often it's one of the things that people don't do. It's kind of like, why do I want a business plan? I've just set up a business. It's just me. What's the point in a business plan? How often should I review my business plan? What does my business plan consist of? Now, we're not here to teach today, so we're not going to be going into any depths of what should be in a business plan. I suppose my question is, why do you need a business plan? And for me, when I'm working with lots of startup businesses, young entrepreneurs, I say to them, look, it's just to offload all of this. You've got all of these crazy ideas, and crazy is good, by the way. You've got all these ideas flying around in your head, and it's about offloading all those ideas and getting into some sort of context that you might understand when it's all up here, but others don't. And in some cases, you don't even understand what's going on up here. So just offloading it and kind of mapping it out. And a business plan could be a simple one-page plan. It could be you just get your notepad and your pen and you write down a really basic business plan. What is basically your mission? What is it you want to achieve? What is your ultimate goal, your vision? And just kind of map that out. Of course, you can get much more detailed then. You can start to put together a really in-depth business plan, an executive summary, all the marketing strategy that sits behind that. And I think that's really important. I really do. But I think more important is just offloading what's up here, getting it down into black and white first. But
I never started with a business plan. I had an idea for a business, and I knew I had that hunger and that drive. And I started with, what is it that I've got to sell, and who can I sell that to? And I had no plan whatsoever. And I reckon for the first, possibly my first decade of business, I drifted around doing one thing and then another thing, and the business only really kind of found its way probably after a very confusing and busy decade. Yeah. Never did have a plan until I sat down, and I'm a big mind map fan. Right? So my business plans tend to be in the shape of a mind map, and it is always pretty basic. It still follows that formula. What have I got? How can I sell it? Who wants it? But it's a bit more structured now. So yeah, I drifted in the wilderness for probably a decade. Right? I should have met you earlier, mate. And you go, well, let's sit down, Nick, and have a cup of coffee and just on the back of this napkin, etch out a business plan for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, my early businesses definitely never had a business plan. It was an idea, and let's get out there and let's just do it. That was what it was all about, in the past. But I suppose I'm a bit of a painter and a decorator, a builder. You've got these, perfect ideas that when you're working with clients and customers, you're suggesting this is what they need to do. That's what I do. I guide them, I advise them, and we work quite heavily on putting together a good quality business plan. Yes, I have business plans for my businesses now. And actually, with one of them, we just finished doing a complete refresh and update on that because it was quite important due to what's happened over the last 2 years. We look at what that future looks like going forward. But I suppose it's like anything. You always leave your own stuff till last because who's the most important really is the customer, my clients. So probably I don't do as much as I should on my own stuff. A bit like a painter and decorator will go and make everyone else's houses look lovely and pristine, but their own probably isn't up to their own individual standard. and that, I suppose, is where I'm going with it. So look, I think business planning is, to me, one of the most important factors. If you're starting a business, launching a business, if you're moving your business forward, if you want to grow and develop, take where you are today. Where are we as of now? Where do I want to get to? And the plan is my map. It's my navigational guide of how I'm going to get there and what I need to do on that journey. The steps that I need to do, the goals that I need to achieve, the tasks that I need to implement and tick off day by day, week by week, month by month. And for me, I think that is one of the most important things in business. It's something that can be neglected. And I do believe if you neglect it, it will have an impact on your growth and development going forwards.
Sensible stuff, right? So tip number one, have some form of business plan. Plenty of people out there that will help. David certainly will help direct you. Good to have a map, right? To know where you're going, right? And how potentially you're going to get there. I know we rely on SatNav now, so it's kind of built in, but it's good to know roughly where the destination is. But how often have you ever jumped in the car, right? And you've just thrown your destination into SatNav and you're driving along and you have no idea if, other than SatNav saying go left, go right, you have no idea at all whether you're going to the place that you wanted to go. And sometimes you question, have I put the postcode in right? Because I don't recognize any of this. You ever done that?
Yeah, quite often. I mean, I often know where I'm going. I've got a very good sense of direction, 9 times out of 10. And I will still put in the postcode to know where I'm going or the destination where I'm going. Why? Because it gives me, in the world of SatNav, it gives me live traffic updates and feeds and information. So it's an ongoing, it's continually updating. And that's what our businesses need to be. We might know where we want to get to, but we need to still plug into that destination and understand what our objective is, what obstacles will be in our path, what diversions we may need to take. And I use that analogy of the SatNav quite often when I'm talking about business planning, but I add a few more tips to it. If I was driving from, a location, traveling 1,000 miles, would I just get in that car unprepared? Of course I wouldn't. I'd get in and put in the details into the SatNav, but I might check my water fluid, beforehand, make sure I've got enough, window washer, fluid. I might check the tire pressures. I would make sure I've probably got a drink or a blanket or, some food for the journey, spare change of clothes if I'm doing an overnight, my toothbrush or whatever it's going to be. So we prepare ourselves. Well, that's what business is. We need to prepare our business. We can't just jump in and hope everything's going to turn out hunky-dory because, I'll be honest, it's tough out there and it's getting tougher as well. Competition is becoming tougher. So, yeah, planning. Tip number one.
Right.
So we're not
SatNav, not map, SatNav, right? So it's your business plan is more your SatNav rather than an old bit of paper with an idea on. What about, all right, and this one, it took me many years to discover this, and it's all part of how my business evoluted. Be a consultant, not a salesperson.
I love this
one. I started life selling, right? My first job sold bits of buses in London, right? Lovely company, Bus Bits and More. Right, I travelled around London, one bus depot to the next. I know my way around London. Most of the bus depots closed now and they're blocks of flats. But I used to know my way around London from one bus depot to the next. And as a young, fresh out of university with my philosophy degree, selling bits of buses to professional engineers in bus depots. What an eye-opener. But I was crafted. I was taken under the wing of the sales director, and he showed me the craft of selling, right? How to close a sale, how to open up a conversation, all the sorts of strategies that salespeople would kind of have to potentially manipulate the conversation around to buy my blooming products. And as time went on, I felt less and less comfortable selling and more comfortable consulting, helping people find the right options, even if those options weren't kind of my options. And I think selling seems to, unless I'm very much mistaken, has moved more towards that consultancy. Are you more of a consultant than a salesperson now, mate?
I do believe, I make a good salesperson, but not through what I would call old-fashioned sales techniques. My way of selling is relationship development and building, and consulting is giving away, tips, advice, guidance, working with someone, looking at what their needs and requirements are, not what I've got in my tool bag that I can provide them. And you know what? If I can't help them, if there's something that I can't provide what they're looking for, I'm going to be honest and say, look, you're not a customer for me. I can't help you. But what I can do, I've got a really good network of connections. I can connect you to someone that should be able to give you the right advice, the right guidance, and help you work on that particular element within your business. And I think that's so important. I think the days, and I think most of us have changed the way we will approach a sale. I think most of us realize now we're not this double glazing salesman techniques and selling the Hoover that cleans your bed, and that old fashioned knock on the door and I sell you anything, I'll sit with you until you sign that dotted line, or every question is a kind of a closed question. It's going to take you one stage forwards to closing that particular deal. I think people are wise to that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen still. I know it does, but the stories then you hear about that are more the fraudulent type stories, aren't they? They're the people that are having people over and taking their money without them realizing it. I think people buy people. That is 100%. You know that, Nick. That's why when you need to work with somebody, when they become a customer, the only way you can make it work is really be with them and meet with them. And it's the same for me. I like to think I can do an element over video, like we are talking this morning. But again, you need to be cohesive. You need to sit there and you need to see that person in their full, outfit, so to speak. You need to see them there, whites of their eyes, their body language. And at the end of the day, I work a lot on handshake deal, or elbows these days, or was. But for me, it's a handshake, and that says a lot. I can't do that through the screen very well. But we're all different, and different businesses will have different techniques and different tactics to win a sale. But the best salesman is a consultant, an engineer, a technician. Why? Because they're going to tell the truth. I always found that in the past in one of my previous businesses, our best salespeople were the people that install the hardware and the equipment, because the advice they gave was truthful. No, I don't buy that. That's a load of rubbish. Where a salesman, what have I got in my tool bag? What can I earn from? What's going to earn me the most commission? Not always, of course not, but there is an element of that. And I'm sure that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. They're going to be saying, I'm a salesman, David, and that's not the way I work.
Brilliant. I love that, right? All salespeople get commenting right now and say, you've done us a disservice. Yeah. Keep your engineers in the van, right? Let us professionals do the work.
Well, a salesman will never turn around to an engineer unless he's going to get the answer that he wants about a product. So they're sitting there, and they're the two of them, and he turns around and says, well, so what do you think about this? Knowing full well that engineer might go, well, I wouldn't advise that. I'd go with the cheaper option because it's much better, because that's the last thing the salesman wants, is that kind of, reverse effect on what they were talking about.
Lost count of the times engineers have stitched me up trying to sell stuff. Yeah. They're far too honest.
Now let's pick on one more of these ideas, one of these tips for business growth, Nick. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a very quick break, and then we'll come back and we're going to be bringing our first guest onto the show this morning. I quite like, and I'm just looking down the 20 we've got here, become a known expert and a go-to person in your field. It's a crowded place out there. Competition has been, to me, competition is at its probably highest level ever, because there's lots of people out there now competing for a particular market segment space, and you've got to stand out from the crowd for the right reasons. But you've got to be you've got to explain how you can help somebody and why they need to use you. Why do they come to you? What is your reason for them to engage compared to the competitor? What is your USP, that unique selling point? And I think that needs to be defined quite early on, wherever you are in your business. If you don't have a reason for someone to come and buy product or service from you, then I think you're probably doomed to fail. And I quite often hear I'm the cheapest, but that is just absolute codswallop.
I've got an issue here, right? And I think most businesses listening this morning will have a similar issue. Okay, it's very difficult to be an expert in your field. Certainly, let's say more in a unique position when everyone has access to Google.
Yes.
Right, because in the old days, if you wanted to know how something was done, you'd speak to someone who knew. Right, you'd before YouTube, before Google, you'd let's say you'd consult with an expert. How do I? And they would tell you, and quite often they would show you, and it would cost you some money. Now, however, you want to know how, what, when, who. First thing you'll do is Google it, right, and you'll get a lot of adverts, but you'll also hopefully get some useful information. You'll get some guidance, and potentially you'll YouTube it. Right, like we in the past have shared our skills. How do you present? Right, how do you get on stage, present, communicate really effectively to your audience? Right, massively powerful. You can go on YouTube, right, and there's 1,000,001 people showing you how to do that. Some rubbish, some pretty good. Okay, so really difficult for businesses to kind of isolate their expertise in this ocean of information, right? Does that mean the stuff that I know about needs to be cheaper because there's more of it, or do I have to work so much harder to make myself out as the expert? Then again, no one does stuff the way I do, so I've still got that edge, but for how long?
Yeah, and there's part of that USP that's building. I always say, look, absolutely, Google is a fantastic tool. There's so much good advice and information at your fingertips. I don't think people use it that often. I often get people asking me, David, how do I do X, Y, and Z? And I think, well, I'm not 100% sure, but I know someone that does. I go and ask my wife. My wife's like Google, by the way. I always say, if you can't find the answer on Google, ask me and I'll check with the wife, and she has all the answers. The Oracle has the answers to everything.
You're in so much trouble.
I know, but I know at this particular point she won't be watching this unless she watches it on catch up later. And if you are my oracle. But no, on a serious note, the tools are out there at our fingertips, at our disposal. It's how we utilize them and how we also go through that information and know what is right and what is wrong. That's why university students, we'll be talking about university a little bit more in a second, but university students are great because they are taught in a way to go off and do their research. To go off and cross-reference and check everything and make sure what they're getting is as accurate can be. There's always, an opportunity. You might get things not quite right, but that's life, isn't it? But as business owners, do we do the same? Do we go off and cross-reference? Do we go off and double-check? Do we go off and measure twice and cut once? And there's another great tip, by the way, in business. If you're going to grow your business, work out what your plan is, okay? Build it up, but go and measure a couple of times before you commit. Check the market out, see what's out there, measure, compare, contrast, put that into your business plan. And before you jump, think twice, because you don't always know. But at the same time, you've got to take some risk in business. There's an element of risk in business. And one last thing before we take a quick break.
I'm loving it, mate. I'm loving it. Yeah.
One last thing before we take a quick break. You were talking about how do you define an expert, and here is my definition. And I think you can probably Google this, so have a Google at home. Definition of an expert is someone that's done 10,000 hours or 7 years of the same craft. Okay, so that could be, it could be a violinist, you could be a pianist, you could be a business expert, trainer, whatever it might be. So the definition: 10,000 hours or 7 years. There is. Now, I've been running businesses for 25 plus years. I'd have to work out exactly. It's 25 plus years. So I always say, does that make me a triple expert? Am I, up at that point? I'm certainly 25 years on.
The answer is yes. Yes.
There we go. That was the answer I was looking for. Thank you, Nick. On that note, what we're going to do is we're going to dive off to a ad break. And when we're back, we'll be bringing our guest onto the show and finding out more about business developments and how they can help you accelerate your business growth. There we go. So this morning, welcome back. It's all about business growth and development. Nick and I have been debating some of the top tips to making your business grow in 2022 and beyond. But we always like to bring a guest on, someone that can add another spin to it, maybe can share some top tips with us, can give us some guidance and advice of their own as well. And this morning, well, we were going to be joined with two, but we're asked why the colleague is not here this morning. We've been talking about it already on the show, but I'd like to welcome onto the show Sara from the Anglia Ruskin Head of School of Management. Good morning, Sara, and welcome to the Breakfast Show.
Cool. Good morning. Thank you for having me on today.
Lovely to see you. I haven't seen you for quite a while, due for various different reasons. I know we've been convoluting is one of my words previously via Teams and stuff like that with Anglia Ruskin, where I've been working with you on various different projects, but we are now here on the Breakfast Show talking about business growth and developments. And tell us a little bit more firstly about your role within Anglia Ruskin University, what it is that you get up to and what it is that you do to support students who are starting a business, maybe got an idea and moving things forwards.
Yeah, so my role's really varied, which I really enjoy. So as head of school, I look after all the teaching, research and the business engagement activity that goes on within the school. And that covers marketing, HR, organisational behaviour. So a really kind of broad area that we cover. And there's lots of things that we do, both with supporting students, but also then supporting the businesses in our community as well. So on the student side, we have some really great sort of entrepreneurial support programs, which I know you get involved with, David, as well, and supporting the students. So things like mentoring, we have a business competition that's running where they can sort of pitch their business idea and win some funding to actually launch that. And we've had some really great businesses come out of that. We also do a lot of work with our research in terms of supporting small businesses, a lot of work at the moment on sustainable development and sort of helping businesses decarbonise and working with SMEs in particular. So there's some really interesting projects going on with that at the moment. And also doing some training and development for business leaders as well. So that's a key thing we want to do. So building skills for our students on things like the MBA and our undergraduate business programs, but then also looking at CPD work as well and helping for people that are already working and in business and how we can help them develop their skills.
You said it's quite varied, Sara. Wow, that's a lot of stuff, right? And I look at a university, right? When I went to university a long time ago, I wasn't aware of kind of that real business focus. It was far more kind of here's an academic subject, and this is, you know, at some point you might get a gown and a hat at the end of it. But universities these days are far more switched on, it seems. And does this mean if I'm a business owner, does this mean this is the place I need? These are the people I need to be speaking to about the future potentially of my business? Would I go here for advice, or is this the place for students to kind of start their journey?
It's both of those things, absolutely. So we really want to kind of make more businesses aware of what we can do to support. Because I think you're right, a lot of people do think of universities as somewhere you go, perhaps when you finish college, you go off and get your degree, and then you kind of never have any contact with them again. But I think certainly sort of the new universities like Anglia Ruskin, we're very much focused on being embedded in the region, community, and actually working with people at all different stages of careers and their development. We have a sort of whole office that's sort of dedicated to businesses and working with them and thinking about how we can support them. And that could be things like consultancy projects where we sort of maybe work on a bespoke project with organisations. Sometimes our students do that work. So we have students working with organisations, then being supervised by an academic. Sometimes it might be a team of academic staff working projects. And really interesting things, and not just in the business school either, but across all the faculties. So science and engineering, for example, sort of working with businesses on sort of new innovations, even arts organisations sort of working with us, thinking about how they can reach their markets better. how they can serve their community. So a really broad scope. So it goes across the whole university and what we can do. We've seen a lot of medical innovations, sort of working with our sort of medical research teams as well, and thinking about how you can have innovations that will benefit kind of the future of medicine. We've got a couple of innovation hubs. So our Arise hub based down in Harlow and Chelmsford. Again, sort of a space for startups and businesses to be able to incubate their ideas and benefit from all the support of their peers and also the university. So yeah, a whole host of different things that we can do to support them. I think we just want to make businesses more aware of that, so they do think of us as a place they can come to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a great believer, as you know, Sara, not just with Anglia Ruskin University, but with other universities and educational establishments that I support. The business and education need to really work closely together. And it is probably more than ever that is happening, but I think there's still room for improvements because lots of universities, lots of educational establishments produce our next generation of entrepreneurs, our next generation of small business owners. And it's a scary place out there in business. You know, you need to learn a lot every day. Nick and I always use the analogy, every day is a school day. Every day you're learning something new, regardless if you've been running a business 10 years, 30 years, or you've just set out from the outset. But I know you're putting together a program, the Help to Grow management program, which is there to help businesses. Tell us a little bit more about what this does. How does it work? And if people want to find out more, how they can get in touch and find out more about it.
Yeah, so the Help to Grow management program, this is a government initiative that's been running for just over a year now. So it's going across nationwide, and it's really part of sort of the government attempts to help businesses and support kind of recovering from COVID, really. So I think that's kind of one of the key things about this is that it's 90% government funded, which I think is excellent. And you don't always get these chances to benefit from sort of a program like this and actually have the government paying for it. So that's really great. And so it's been running for about a year, and Anglia Ruskin have sort of been getting on board with this recently in terms of actually launching it for the Eastern region, because it's been a bit of a cold spot at the moment in terms of people being sort of able to access that. So the program is sort of delivered over 12 weeks. And it's really designed as sort of an executive development program. So looking for sort of senior leaders, decision makers in small businesses. And it goes back to what you were talking about earlier about getting your business plan together. So that's one of the key outcomes that we have for this program, is that by the end of it, someone will actually have a plan for growth to be able to sort of go forward into the future. And it's really focused about being strategic. And I think it's very easy as sort of a business leader, as someone sort of working in a senior role, particularly in SME, you're so busy with sort of the operational things or just getting through the day-to-day, all those the sort of various challenges you have to sort of just do, keep the plate spinning, really. It's hard often to sort of take a breath and actually think about where are your strengths, where are the areas that you want to improve in the organisation, what are your next steps? And it's not just growth for growth's sake, but thinking about what do you really want to achieve as an organisation, what customers do you want to serve, what goals do you actually want to achieve personally and for your business. And this program is really designed to help with that. So it covers kind of a whole range of areas to sort of get you thinking about your customers, your vision, your mission, your values, thinking about sort of the operations side, sort of the financial management. So we sort of have a host of expert speakers coming in to deliver these sessions. And again, it's also about building and learning from businesses. And I think that's a key thing for universities as well, is that we want to bring things in. It's not just about us kind of using academic expertise. It's also about us being able to work with businesses. So this program is being designed with input from industry, really making sure that it's focused on the needs of business owners and what they need to actually learn to be able to develop their business. And as part of it, we have lots of case studies, so focusing on British businesses and thinking about how we can learn from other experiences, as well as bringing in people who are actually working in business at the moment. So a lot of the staff in my school, as well as being academics, they are also business owners, they do consultancy work, they run their own organisations. So actually it's using those people to be able to share their own skills and experiences too. So we have a really varied mix of speakers, and it takes place in, again, a hybrid fashion. So as you mentioned, David, we can sort of see the benefits nowadays, both of the convenience of online, but also actually having some face-to-face opportunities to really network and kind of bond with a peer group as well. So that's how this program's delivered. So across the 12 weeks, 8 of those will be online sessions, so 2-hour webinars plus a 1-hour call with your peer group with a facilitator. And then also 4 sessions, which are actually on campus in one of our buildings for you to actually come have a 4-hour session. And these are our really in-depth case study sessions for you to be able to mix with the people in your group. We normally expect sort of about 15 people in a group. So it's actually a really good chance to meet people. So having a chance to talk to other people in similar sort of roles that you're doing, expand your networks, and have some contacts that are going to exist past that. So an alumni network's a really strong part too. So we want it not to be a 12-week and that's it, but actually it's a springboard for you to actually continue those conversations. People also within your region that you can kind of benefit from in the future, keep those connections going. And also mentoring is a part of that. So everyone gets a mentor as well who is in business. So again, someone they can have some one-to-one conversations with as part of the program, and really think about your personal skills and personal development, because that's really important. I think we've seen that in the pandemic particularly. So your own personal resilience, your personal development really affects the people you work with, how your business will be successful. And that's a really key thing as well for us. So I can talk
about to squeeze in 12 weeks. And it's 90% funded by the government, is that right?
Yeah. So the overall cost for an individual will then be £750, which I mean, when we look at things like our MBA courses, the other courses we offer, it's a really good value program for the amount of kind of content and support that's being delivered with it.
A small investment from me as a business. I get to mix with a load of other people that know what they're talking about across 12 weeks. And David and I have said this in the past, business quite often is very, very lonely, has been over the last 2+ years, and was before that. If you're not careful, you get stuck in your office and it's very, very lonely. And you'd lose sight of what potential there is out there. And it sounds like this program kind of will open your eyes, open your ears, and give you kind of a fresh look at, okay, what's going on with your business? Do you want it to go in this direction? Do you want to go that direction? Sounds fantastic, Sara. One question I want to ask, okay, and it's slightly, it's kind of related, but it perhaps isn't. One thing I've noticed, right, with students, young people, everyone seems to have a side hustle. Right? Every person I come across seems to have some form of business, right? Some little kind of project. Call it a side hustle. It's probably a business. Is your school filled with students that have got they know what they're talking about, studying business, but they've also got a side hustle? Is that what it looks like?
We do see that more and more now, but I would say it's not even just in the business schools. So I think actually it's students in general, and I think some really interesting things can even come out of other areas. So we've had new medical devices, for example, coming out sort of the medical school. But yeah, I think with our students, a lot of them are interested now in setting up their own business, and that probably is a change. And we support that with kind of the teaching that we do as well. So a lot of the teaching now is focused on building those sort of entrepreneurial skills. So thinking about how you can be entrepreneurial in an organisation, but then also how you can do that with setting up your own business too. And yeah, I think what we appreciate now is sort of the extra stuff that goes on around just the core teaching. And I think universities have come to see that a lot more. So it is about providing those extra things. So yeah, the mentoring, we do a whole sort of series of webinars that students can go along to find out about sort of the key skills that are needed to set up your own business, things to be thinking about. I was talking to some students yesterday, and one of them was saying about wanting to set up their own business and wanting to sort of, as soon as they finish their degree, they've got some ideas and talking about how they're going to network and start to set things up. So I think it is, people are more aware of the opportunities now for sort of going out and setting up on your own.
Definitely at Anglia Ruskin. I'm involved. You mentioned it earlier very briefly. The Big Pitch is a pitching competition. It's allowing startup or ideas. They're not even startup, is it? They're ideas to put their idea forward. I've gone through and just judged over the last week. I think it was 70+ ideas. They submitted their 1-minute video that has been shortlisted now. I don't know if it's been shared, so I'm not going to talk any more about it. I'm not going to take away.
Come on, tell us.
Oh, I couldn't I? But no, I'm not going to. But this is what it's about. For me, this is what business is about. This is what there's got to be an element of fun. The whole idea of the Big Pitch is injecting an element of fun. It's getting people to, or in this case, students to think about their ideas, to explore it, to kind of drop down their barriers and their shields and engage with others and support each other. And I think that's a magnificent thing. But I do agree with you. I think there's a lot of side hustles going on for the good reason, but they're all going to they are the next wave of entrepreneurs. They're the ones that are going to come up with the new ideas. There could be the next Apple or the next, SpaceX or whatever it's going to be. I know I'm talking big here, but it's also the small businesses that we don't hear of. And there's lots of them throughout the UK, 5.9 million, small businesses, somewhere around that figure. And they're all contributing. They are the lifeblood of the UK economy. So we've got to tip our hats to those. Sara, a couple of things before we kind of thank you and wrap up. I've got 3 things I want to finish off with. And Nick might then have something else here, throw into the mix as well. The first thing is, if people want to find out more about this program, best way of getting in touch with you? Is it an email? Is it a website? What's the best way of reaching out and having a conversation with you?
Yeah, so feel free to contact me directly. So it's sara.spear@aru.ac.uk is my email to contact. You can also find us by searching on Google ARU. It'll bring you up to our page as well. So see the ARU website and the business and employers pages will also take you right through to find out all the other things that we do to support businesses. So take a look and see what's on offer.
Brilliant. So I'll just quickly pop up on there your email address as well, sara.spear@aru.ac.uk. So people can email you. They can go to the website as well, aru.ac.uk, and find out more about the program. A couple of questions. We were going to be joined by Julian Gibbs today. Sadly, he sent me a message yesterday, and he's in Nick's boat. He's come down with the dreaded COVID. So we wish him all the best. If you are watching this, Julian, promise we'll get you on the show at some point in the future and look at it from a slightly different angle. But it's a shame he couldn't be here with us this morning. But Sara, you've done a fantastic job of telling us everything we need to know. And my last question is that we ask everybody that comes on this show to share a top tip. Something that maybe you've learned, maybe about business, maybe about implementation, something you tell your younger self possibly. And what we're doing is we're putting these all in. Well, Nick's making notes now. He's already started scribbling. We're putting them all into a little booklet. We're going to make a kind of a story out of this, a book at some point of all the top tips of everyone that's come onto the show. Do you have a top tip that you could share with us?
Yeah, I would say take advantage of all the opportunities available to you. We always encourage our students to do that because there's so many things on offer in universities, sort of going on externally as well. There's webinars, seminars, mentoring, chance to sort of hear from expert speakers, go along to extra events. And I think all the things that you can do for businesses sort of through local growth hubs, etc. as well. So that would be my tip, is to look at what's available and really make the most of that. And because I think there's a lot of stuff out there. And the more you engage, the more you can benefit for yourself and whatever you want to do in the future.
Donna has put, sounds like a fantastic program, Sara. I think you'll probably know Donna from a previous life as well. So lots going on. It's brilliant from an Anglia Ruskin perspective on education as a whole. And it's been great having you on here this morning and learning more about that and how people can take advantage of the program. Nick, any final questions from yourself?
I love it. Right? I love it. I'm a big fan of conversations. So any business that I'm inspired by a load of kind of young minds who are thinking about business. And I've been running a business quite a while, so it's probably very healthy for me to mix with a younger generation of business thinkers, just to wake me up, really, to wake me up to what potential is out there. Love the idea that most students have got a side hustle. What an environment! Even spending time in that environment has got to be massively beneficial. And I totally agree with you. Take advantages of all opportunities available. And it sounds like at ARU that the school has some amazing opportunities for all businesses out there. So get in touch, ladies and gents, with Sara and go and have some conversations. Thank you ever so much for coming along. It's filled me with some energy after my COVID spell. I'm engaged and I'm ready to take business to another level. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I look forward to hearing how the program progresses. Many thanks indeed for coming on the show.
Cool. Thank you for having me. Have a good day, everyone.
You too. Thank you, Sara. All the best. Well, there we go, Nick. We always say every day's a school day, so we've learned there's a fantastic program out there to help businesses take their ideas forward. Some of the things we've been talking about, business planning, cropped up in conversation there as well.
I tell you what, I bet you'd feel blooming younger as well, right? You just mix in with a load of cool business minds. You'd come up with great ideas. You'd be refreshed. You'd have a business plan worth investing in. What's not to like? And the government paying for most of it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I know national insurance has gone up, and and the cost of living's gone up, and people are watching their budgets. But hey, if the government's got some money for us, then let's have it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all paying more than ever in taxes. I can't remember what the quote is. Is it the highest taxing regime since 1940s or something like that? So yeah, if you're putting in the pot, make sure you get something back out. There's an advantage. And funny enough, on our top 20, Nick, and I know we only covered a few of them, but number 9 was get expert advice where necessary. So, that route is certainly expert advice, but there's lots of other ways of getting great advice out there. And sometimes I always say the thing about advice, it is opinionated as well. So, go and ask more than one person, because one person will tell you something, someone else will tell you something else. Just because it's worked for them, it might not work for you. Because it didn't work for them doesn't mean it can't work for you. So go out there, gain all this knowledge, experience, and advice. Make your own decisions. That's the only way you're going to find out. And keep it within a threshold of, based on your risk rewards ratio as well. It's very easy, isn't it, to risk everything and lose everything. But if you don't risk anything, you're never going to probably move forward either. So you've got to find a balance that you're comfortable with.
Be brave, right? Be courageous. And I tell you what, one of our challenges, right, for you and I this week, right, and we'll report back on next week's show. Okay, something that we want to know how to do. Let's stop ourselves from Googling it, and let's work it out ourselves. Because if the answer is always, well, I'll Google it and I'll find out, then you'll never come across a new way of doing something, will you? Because you'll always follow someone else's path. Let's you and I, over the next week, right, steer clear of Google for at least one thing, okay, and see if we can find our own solution. And then we'll report back next week.
I love that, because one of the things I would say, one of my plus points, one of my advantages, I'm a very good solutions provider. I'm a good problem solver. I will look at something, I'll be analytic, I'll analyze it. Tend to be quite creative as well. So I'll look outside of the box. And that is one of my strengths that I've always been quite proud of. Working with my clients quite often, we'll be sitting there and, there'll be a challenge that lays before us. They will see it as a dead end, as I will have to turn back and start all over again. It's like, whoa, hold on. Let's drill into this. And, I can't give any particular scenarios now, and I wouldn't want to go into any particular detail about a client, of course, but, I'll report back with some next week. I'll pick up some and think how I can relay them to the conversation here live on the show.
Right. That sounds like a plan. So next week, we're talking about personal growth and development, aren't we? And I guess one of the questions that we will answer in the week ahead is it's some of those challenges, personal growth challenges. And instead of Googling it, we'll have to come up with our own answers. Yeah, that's a challenge for all the audience as well. Okay, next time you want to Google something, stop, think, work it out yourself. Okay, come up with a solution. Okay, and you may have invented something new.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be fantastic? One last one, Nick, off the list here. Build your network. And the reason I'm picking on this one as our last one, because we are we're both great believers of building networks, building relationships. My top business tip is probably already written in your book, so you probably won't need to rewrite it. But one of the biggest top tips I give to anyone says, David, what's your top tip? It's relationships, relationships, relationships. Build your relationships, maintain those relationships, and keep developing those relationships as well. Because it's those people that you meet today, it's those people you met last week, last year, 10 years ago, that are going to be your network of support. We said earlier, business can get very lonely. Build yourself and surround yourself with other great like-minded people. And that's different for us all, because we all have different, kind of understandings. And that is something to inspire us day by day and to help us and drive us forward. So I'm going to kind of leave that as my top business tip. It's all about relationships.
Yeah, and there's a great opportunity, isn't it? Another FSB bonanza, isn't there, of relationship building opportunity, which you're very kind, mate. You're very keeping quite quiet about it, but you're steering a big FSB networking ship for us all, haven't you?
Yeah, for those that are thinking FSB, what is that? It's the Federation of Small Businesses, one of the is the largest business membership organisation in the UK. We're running this is our Easter big networking event, Spring Back to Business, which is on Friday, the 22nd of April. So a few weeks from now, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Myself and Pauline are hosting this particular event. We've got 3 great guest speakers, lots of networking opportunities, breakout rooms where you can go off and network and meet other business owners, but not just locally, from all around the country and beyond. So the country being the UK, but you're watching this the other side of the world, you're more than welcome to join. And it's open to all, regardless if you're a member, not a member. It's all about supporting small businesses. There's no hard selling. Actually, there's no selling as such. It's just about communication, networking, meeting, and collaboration. So, yeah, sign up for that. Over 500 businesses already signed up. It's well over that because it was 500 this time last week. So I'd imagine we have a limit of 1,000. That's all the room can take. So if you do want to join that, I'm going to pop in the details into the chat box now so you can sign up, come and join us and have some fun.
Absolutely, mate. One of the things I've signed up myself. One of the things I'm looking forward to is the double act that is David and Pauline. What great hosts! Brilliant hosts. You think David and I are a great double act? Tune in to the FSB networking adventures. They're brilliant. And it looks like some great speakers, great opportunities to chat with other businesses and share some of your magic. Brilliant.
Yeah. And Pauline is a friend of the show. She's been on here in the past as well and talked about, top tips and sharing her magic and everything like that as well. So, yeah, if you're looking to sign up to that, do register, do join us. It'd be great to have you there and being part of a magical networking event. Probably one of the biggest networking events. There, I'll put it on the screen there as well. There's a link, but you can go to fsb.org.uk as well, and you can just go to events and sign up via that route as well. Well, there we go, Nick. Another hour has passed us by. It's been a great morning. Some great top tips have come out of the woodwork, some great communication techniques, and of course, hearing from Sara about a fantastic program that's available to all UK businesses to access funding, 90% funded, to help you accelerate and grow your business.
Fantastic. Well, love the show, mate. I'm off to do, hopefully, fingers crossed, a negative COVID test. Bring it on. And I'm excited about our challenge, our no Google solution finding challenge for this week. And lovely audience, you do the same. All right, get out there, explore, have an adventure, try and find a solution without taking a shortcut.
Or asking my wife.
The Oracle, right?
The Oracle. Anyway, till next week, we're back here next Thursday morning from 8 a.m. Next week, we're talking all about personal growth. Your ideas, your tips, share them in the comments. Tell us what you are doing to accelerate yourself. We'd love to share those on the show. Until next week, bye-bye from me.
Cheerio!